So Grandma gets to Chicago, and she's there with her older brother and older sister, and she gets a job in one of the factories that makes clothing. What was the name of the factory that burnt down in New York? And the women were jumping out the windows because all the doors were locked and everything. I can't remember the name of that, but it was the same type of situation, just a big factory where with a bunch of women who did nothing but sew all day, making stuff, clothing, sheets, probably drapery, all kinds of stuff. And she worked there for a number of years. And then she somehow connected with a rich woman who liked her, liked the way that she sewed, and who hired her to make all the clothing for her family and her, anybody that wanted something. Well, that's what Grandma did, was she worked for her. And then she worked for her for a number of years, and then met my grandfather, and they got married. She kind of left that world behind and just became a mom to three boys, and did all concerned with that. I'm sure made their clothes and everything else. She may have done a few things on the side, who knows? But that was what she did. She became a mother, and my grandfather died very young. I never knew him. He was in his early 50s, something like that. And so then she and my oldest uncle um, opened a dry cleaning store, and she did all of the clothing repairs and that sort of thing. Something came in and had a tear in it, she would fix it. She would fix it because that was her thing. Everybody's got their thing. And so she did that for many, many years, and then moved to Michigan with us and lived with us till she passed. And she would just tell me stories about mostly her life in Chicago. She never talked about her life in Poland. She never talked about her life in Poland. Um, and she never talked about my grandfather. Neither did my dad. Never talked about my grandfather. I have a bad, bad feeling that he was an abusive husband father, which is sad, very sad. But it was the time. He was like a bank executive, and then he became a real estate agent, and so he thought he was hoity-toity, and he did what all the men of those days were doing and still do today. He picked himself up a girlfriend, and Grandma was very upset about that. But understandably. But he ended up dying fairly young in his early 50s, like I said. And so she started the dry cleaning business and mending and that sort of thing. Uh, and then came to Michigan with us and lived with us. I hope she was happy here. I don't know. Can't really say. But she would speak with my dad in Polish. She would speak with him all the time. She didn't understand something going on in the news or something. She would ask him, and he would explain it to her in the language that she understood the best, of course, which was Polish. My dad knew two languages. When I asked my grandmother to teach me Polish, her answer was, "Oh, you don't need to learn to speak another language, because soon everybody in the world is going to speak English, just like in the United States, just like in America." She was so proud to be an American, even though she was, picked on and called names herself. She still thought America was the best country in the world. She would never go back to Poland in a million years. Would she ever go back to Poland? It had bad connotations for her, bad remembrances. Who knows what goes on? You know, you can only guess. But she lived with us in Michigan for many years. She died at the age of early 80s, somewhere 81, 82, something like that. And I think she had a stroke, is what happened. Same thing that happened to my mother. She had a stroke. Done. But yeah, she was quite the lady. But also like I said, kind of the I don't know, is oxymoron the right word? I don't know. But she didn't like being picked on for her ethnicity, and yet she picked on people for their ethnicity. So that's something I want you all to understand. Why do we do that? Why do we do that? Because there's something in the back of our head says that we need to have somebody who's less than us in order for us to be valid. You need to be able to look at somebody and look down at somebody for whatever reason, race, ethnicity, religion, whatever the hell it is. You need to look down on those people so that you feel better about yourself. That doesn't even make sense to me. It doesn't even make sense to me. I don't understand why people do that. It's beyond me. I certainly was not raised with any kind of prejudice. Um, my parents always told me all people are equal. All people are equal no matter where you come from. All people are equal, probably because they were picked on. Although my mother um, and her family were from Canada, and they were French and Scots. That was their heritage. And then they came to Canada and immigrated. Actually, they immigrated in the early part of the United States in the early, well, in 17, like 70 something, 2, 3, 4, something like that. They came over on the boat. This is my mother's parents, grandparents. Um, in the 1772 3, like I said, came over on the boat, fought in the Revolution. There were like 7 brothers and 1 sister, and they all fought in the American Revolution. But the one family member married a woman whose parents were English. And so they moved to Canada after the Revolution because they were not welcome. People who were sticking with Britain were kicked out. So they all went to Canada. So I have a Polish half and I have a Canadian half, which consists of French and Spanish, a little bit of Spanish, according to a blood test, and Scots. So that's who I am. Typical, mixed ethnicity American, which we all are if we look back in our history. Mixed ethnicities. Nobody's 100% anything, I don't think, anymore. But I don't understand why we pick on each other because of ethnicity. You just are what you are, you know. And I think we should have one day out of the year where we all express our ethnicity by maybe wearing traditional clothing and wearing traditional clothing and making traditional food that we all share. Have a big picnic and everybody brings something, and you bring your ethnicity when you put it down on the table. The Mexicans bring the Mexican food. French people bring French food. German people bring German food. Italian people bring Italian food. Chinese people bring Chinese food. Japanese food. Whatever. Everybody just bring it and have a party. And talk to each other, have a good time. Uh, maybe, I don't know, July 4th should become that, or maybe Election Day should become that. Everybody just get together with their ethnicity, you know, mixed ethnicities, have a big party, try to get along with one another, learn to get along with one another. If we don't learn to get along with one another, people, we're going to be in deep, deep shit. We're going to be in deep shit. Forget the goddamn ethnicity bullshit. Forget the race bullshit. We're people, we're human beings. Come on. So, like I said, everybody bring your own ethnic food. Get together, talk to each other. Taste the food. Have a good time. Doesn't it sound like a better idea than arguing with each other? You know. You got some white supremacist. I bet you he likes tacos. Makes no sense. Makes no sense. Let's just try to get along with each other. Like the words of Rodney King. Can't we all just get along? Rodney King. Can't we all just get along? Look it up. So, you bring your ethnic foods to the party, and I'll bring the pierogies and the cabbage rolls. Ooh. Ooh, I remember making cabbage rolls with my grandma. Yummy. Yep, I'll bring the pierogies and the cabbage rolls. Thank you very much. Talk about your ethnicity. Learn to care about each other. That's what we need to do, people. The way we're going now, we're just heading to the toilet. You need to forget your prejudices and learn to love one another. Whoa, what a concept. Love one another? Gee, what famous guy in history said that? Who was that? What was that guy's name? Who said that? Some guy. He said love one another. So, I guess that's all I'll talk about here. Like I said, let's get together. I'll bring the cabbage rolls and the pierogies. See you later.